Hey guys, Arjufantes here with another Prismata game analysis. And today I bring you a rather interesting game I played against Debelange in Mana League's Base 8 tournament. So in this game my opponent went for a Shadowfang plus Immolite Rush, which is very aggressive, and I basically just responded with Base Set plus Cryo Ray. And then somehow in the middle of the game both of us squeezed out an Energy Matrix. So the start of the game, I go for the Conduit first, since there's both Plexo Cell and Cryo Ray in the set, both of which are pretty strong. And my opponent, seeing that, decides to go for Shadowfang plus Immolite. So the normal Shadowfang rush is pretty fast, but when you have access to Immolite, you actually can ramp up damage super fast. You can go Shadowfang Immolite every turn off of 10 drones, for example. And that's very scary. So I wasn't like confident that I'd be able to counter the rush with just Cryo Ray plus base set, but I was willing to give it a try. And the key to playing against Shadowfang Rush is you want to assemble damage as fast as possible. If your opponent's able to pump out a Shadowfang every turn, you are eventually going to lose a game. It's just impossible to defend like 10 points of damage a turn with 13 drones. However, if you're able to assemble enough damage and pressure the Shadowfang player, then the Shadowfang player is forced to build Rhinos instead of Shadowfangs on defense. And that means he doesn't get the super high damage efficiency from Shadowfangs. So my goal is to just assemble damage ASAP. And to do that, I go Steel Splitter double Cryo Ray. Now Cryo Rays obviously aren't actual damage, but I just call it pressure, right? I have 4 points of pressure here. And what that means is pressure is just the total amount my opponent needs to account for on defense, right? So by going Steel Splitter double Cryo Ray, instead of say going another wall to defend the Shadowfangs, I'm able to force my opponent not to get his third Shadowfang. Which is exactly what happened. He basically has to go double Rhino here, which limits his options. I do lose this drone here in order to do this, but I think it's a worthy sacrifice. So from this position, I'm able to just like freeze his single engineer and kill a Rhino exactly. And I just go for slowly ramping up my damage. And obviously my opponent's still way ahead on damage here, right? If he wants to, he could attack with Rhino Immolite and deal 7. I'm still stuck on 3 points of damage. However, I do have way better defense than him, and because I have access to stuff like Cryo Ray, I am able to really pressure my opponent. So at this point, it's actually impossible for him to buy more Shadowfangs, which is why he goes for the Blast Forge here. He wants access to a superior defense, so he doesn't have to defend it with his Rhinos, as we see. And he attacks for exactly 4, which kills 2 engineers and a wall. So by leaving the Rhino and the Immolite back, he's able to deny me my granular defense. Like, I could have just defended wall over wall, but the most efficient is engineer over walls. So this is rather annoying. It means essentially this turn I have to leave a drone back. And I just go for a Steel Splitter here, and I could have went for like Steel Splitter plus Gauss Cannon, but I decided that having the granularity on defense was much more important. So I go for 3 engineers. If I didn't do this, and say I didn't leave the drone back, my opponent can just attack for 6 and kill 2 walls exactly, and deny me any form of absorb, which is very bad. So he just attacks for exactly 4. Because I only have 1 drone left back, I just kind of had to defend slightly inefficiently, only getting 1 absorb on the wall. This is where the game goes a little crazy. My opponent goes for a second Blast Forge to get Energy Matrix. The reason being, he wants to sort of have good defense so he can then build more Shadowfangs. And I decide to respond with my own Blast Forge. Briefly played around with like buying a wall here, but I decided I just wanted to leave my Steel Splitter back and also get my own Energy Matrix. And I'm still able to assemble 2 points of pressure here between the Cryo Ray and the Gauss Cannon, so it's all good. And here I just freeze the engineer and attack for 3. This means he's forced to lose Immolite or Rhino, or he could just lose the wall. All 3 options are pretty good for me. And he goes for the Energy Matrix. So I respond with my own Energy Matrix. And here's the turning point in the game where I feel like I was very strongly in control. While we both have Energy Matrices, because I have access to Cryo Rays, I'm able to sort of exploit the lack of his granular defense and do stuff like freeze an engineer and attack for 5. Because I am able to do stuff like this, I force my opponent into a situation where his energy matrix is actually not that efficient. He has to lose the wall here because I'm attacking for 5, and he only gets to absorb 2 on the energy matrix. So this was just a super expensive wall for him this turn. For the rest of the game, I just continue doing this. He is able to get the Shadowfang because he got the energy matrix last turn, and he's leaving the Rhinos back this turn. But as we continue on this game, we'll see. I'm just able to exploit his defense really, really hard. Here, again, I'm attacking for 5, which forces him to lose the Rhino. And he's only able to defend for 3 on the energy matrix instead of the full 4. And I can just keep on putting on pressure by buying like Steel Splitter plus Cryo Ray, or Gauss Cannon plus Cryo Ray, some combination thereof. And as the game continues from this point on, it just kind of gets worse and worse for my opponent. Here I'm attacking for 6, which means freezing Rhino Engineer doesn't matter. If he blocks with Engineer, there's still 5 damage, so he's forced to lose the wall here anyways. And there's just no way for him to build more Shadowfangs because I'm actually assembling 2 points of pressure every single turn. So, and the game kind of just winds down from here. Here I go on a crazy freezing spree. I can freeze Engineer Rhino, attack for exactly 8, which kills 2 walls, and only puts 2 absorb on energy matrix. And this just kind of goes to show that even though the Cryo Ray was nerfed, it's still a very, very powerful unit in the correct circumstance. Basically, if your opponent does not have a lot of granular defense, by that I mean defense with low HP, like 1 or 2 HP, you can really take advantage of it. Right, I'm attacking for 8. Here I don't want to like freeze Rhino because it would force me to lose 2 Cryo Rays. If I froze Rhino, I would do 1 more point of damage, right? I would force him to lose the wall instead of the Rhino, but that's not worth losing 2 Cryo Rays worth of pressure. And yeah, it just gets worse and worse. Here I'm threatening 16 points. And like there's no way for him to assemble enough engineers. He's forced to double wall every turn. And essentially it just becomes impossible for my opponent to defend. Whereas because I had an energy matrix absorbing 4 every single turn, and my opponent was just unable to assemble attack, eventually I actually had more attack and more freeze than my opponent, and just kind of overtook the game. And that was kind of my strategy going in. It went a lot better than I expected it to. This really goes to show kind of like the strength of Cryo Ray. You can just put your opponent under so much pressure that he can't buy any more attack. He has to buy defense every turn. And the game kind of just spiraled. I hope you enjoyed this one. I will probably be back later this week because I kind of skipped last week. I was a little busy and wasn't able to release a video. So later this week I'll have another video. And yeah, until then, I'll see you guys later.